My name is Renee. I flew back to Charlotte on a Tuesday morning, carrying a suitcase full of gifts and a heart full of hope. I hadn't told anyone I was coming. After 4 years of working double shifts at a physical therapy clinic in Denver, sending money home every 2 weeks like clockwork, I wanted to surprise them. I wanted to see my grandmother's face light up when I walked through the door. But when I got there, the house was dark. The driveway was empty, and my grandmother, the woman who raised me since I was 6 years old, was lying in a hospital bed 15 minutes away, alone, hooked up to machines, with no one by her side. My mother and my brother were in Cancún. They had taken her savings, booked a luxury resort, and left her behind like she was nothing. So I did what I had to do. I called the bank and locked every account my name was tied to. Within an hour, my phone started ringing. But that was just the beginning. What kind of people leave behind the one person who gave them everything? The Uber turned off the highway and onto Millbrook Road, past the strip mall with the dollar store and the nail salon that had been there since I was in middle school. Everything looked the same cracked sidewalks, the same chain-link fences, the same mailboxes leaning slightly to the left like they were tired of standing. My grandmother's neighborhood sat on the east side of Charlotte, a quiet pocket of single-story brick homes built in the 70s. It wasn't fancy. It never had been, but it was hers. She had paid off that house in 1998 with 30 years of work at the county clerk's office, and she never let anyone forget it. The driver pulled up to the curb. I thanked him, grabbed my bag, and stood on the sidewalk for a moment, just looking. The porch light was off. The curtains were drawn. No car in the driveway. The potted ferns she always kept by the front steps were brown and wilted, like no one had watered them in weeks. I walked up the steps and knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, louder. Still nothing. I tried the doorbell. It didn't ring. The battery had probably died. I called my mother, straight to voicemail. I called my brother, Derek. Same thing. I called the house phone, the old landline my grandmother refused to get rid of because she said cell phones gave her headaches. It rang and rang. I sat down on the porch steps and looked around. Across the street, Mr. Coleman was pulling weeds from his front yard. He looked up, squinted, and then waved. Renee? That you? I crossed the street. He wiped his hands on his jeans and gave me a one-armed hug. Long time, girl. Thought you moved out west. Denver, I said. Just came back to visit. He nodded slowly, and something shifted in his face. You looking for Miss Lorraine? Yeah. Nobody's answering. He looked down at his shoes, then back at me. She's at Mercy General. Has been for about 10 days now. Ambulance came one night. I saw the lights from my window. They said she had a fall, hit her head on the kitchen counter. My chest tightened. 10 days? I tried calling your mama. Left 2 messages. Never heard back. Where's my mother? He shrugged. Your brother came by about a week ago. Packed up some things. I heard him on the phone saying something about a trip. Mexico, I think. I figured somebody was staying with Miss Lorraine, but I haven't seen anyone come or go. I thanked him and walked back across the street. My hands were shaking. Not from the cold, from something else entirely. Something that hadn't fully formed yet but was already taking root in my chest. I got back in another car and told the driver to take me to Mercy General. The hospital smelled like bleach and burnt coffee. The waiting room was half full, mostly older people staring at their phones or at nothing. I walked straight to the front desk. I'm here to see Lorraine Delcourt. She was admitted about 10 days ago. The woman behind the counter typed slowly. Room 412. 4th floor, ICU wing. Are you family? I'm her granddaughter. She looked up. You're the first visitor she's had. That sentence hit me harder than anything else she could have said. I took the elevator up. The hallway was long, fluorescent lit, and too quiet. My shoes squeaked on the tile. I passed a nurse's station where 2 women were reviewing charts. One of them looked up. Room 412? She nodded. Down the hall. Last door on the left. I pushed the door open and stopped. She looked so small. My grandmother had always been a tall woman, 5'9", broad shoulders, the kind of posture that made you stand up straighter just being around her. But the woman in that bed looked like someone had folded her in half. Her cheeks were sunken. Her skin, usually a deep warm brown, looked gray under the hospital lights. There were tubes in her arms, a monitor clipped to her finger, and an oxygen mask over her nose and mouth. The machine beside her beeped in a rhythm that felt too mechanical to be connected to anything human. I pulled the chair close and sat down. My knees almost gave out. "Grandma," I whispered. "It's me. It's Renee." Nothing. Just the sound of the machine pushing air. I took her hand. It was cool, dry, lighter than I remembered. I held it gently, afraid I might break something. "I'm here now," I said. "I'm not going anywhere." I don't know how long I sat there. 20 minutes. An hour. Time didn't matter. At some point, a nurse came in. Young, maybe my age, with kind eyes and a name tag that read Tanya. "You're her granddaughter?" I nodded. I'm glad someone finally came. We called the emergency contact several times. A woman named Patricia. She never showed up. "Patricia, my mother. What happened to her?" Tanya checked the chart. She fell in the kitchen. A neighbor called 911 when he heard her dog barking for hours. By the time paramedics arrived, she had been on the floor for what we estimate was 6 to 8 hours. She sustained a head injury and a fractured hip. There was also a mild stroke, likely triggered by the fall or by the time she spent without help. She's been stable but unresponsive. 6 to 8 hours, I repeated. Tanya nodded gently. "I'm sorry." She left me alone with the sound of the machines and the weight of what I was beginning to understand. My grandmother had fallen, hit her head, and lay on her kitchen floor for most of a day, alone. While her daughter, my mother, was reachable by phone, while my brother lived 20 minutes away. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. It didn't take long. My mother's account was public. The most recent post was from 3 days ago. A photo of her in a white sundress, holding a margarita, standing on a balcony overlooking turquoise water. The caption read, "Finally treating myself. I deserve this." 42 likes. Derek had commented with a fire emoji. I scrolled further. Photos of them at a pool, at a beachside restaurant, on a boat. My brother in designer sunglasses, shirtless, smiling, like he didn't have a care in the world. My mother, in a wide-brimmed hat, posing with a cocktail. I went back further. 4 days before the trip, my mother had posted a photo of her nails freshly done, captioned "Vacation ready." That was 2 days after my grandmother was admitted to the ICU. She knew. She absolutely knew. And she left anyway. I closed the app and sat in the quiet for a long time. My grandmother's chest rose and fell with the machine. Her hand was still in mine. I thought about all the birthdays she never missed. The school plays she sat through even when she was tired. The lunches she packed with handwritten notes tucked inside. The nights she stayed up helping me with homework, even though she had to be at work by 6 the next morning. She had given everything to this family. And this is what they gave her in return. An empty room. A beeping machine. Silence. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the chair beside her bed, my back aching, my eyes burning, watching the monitors like they were the only thing keeping her tethered to this world. Around 2 in the morning, I leaned in and whispered, "You deserved so much better than this. But I'm here now, and I'm going to make this right." The next morning, I called my mother. She picked up on the 3rd ring. I could hear waves in the background and someone laughing. "Renee? Hey, sweetie. What's going on?" "I'm at the hospital. With Grandma." A pause. "Oh, how is she?" "She's in the ICU. She's on oxygen. She hasn't woken up in 10 days. "How is she?" "That's what you want to ask me?" "Look, I know it sounds bad, but the doctor said she was stable. There was nothing we could do just sitting around. Derek and I needed a break. You have no idea how stressful it's been." "Stressful for who? You're on a beach." "Don't start with me, Renee. You don't get to show up after 4 years and act like you know what's been going on. I've been sending money every 2 weeks. For her prescriptions. For the house. For the electric bill. Where did that money go?" She didn't answer right away. Things came up. "What things? Resort fees? Boat tours?" "I'm not doing this with you. You left her on the floor, Mom. A neighbor had to call 911. She was there for hours. She fell. People fall. I can't be there every second. You weren't there any second." She hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time, then set it face down on the table. I didn't cry. I was past that. Something inside me had shifted from grief to clarity, cold and precise. I called Derek next. He answered quickly, his voice casual. Yo, what's up? Did you know Grandma was in the ICU? Yeah, Mom told me. She said it wasn't serious. She's been unconscious for 10 days. That's not serious to you? Look, I went by the house and grabbed some stuff. Mom said the doctors had it handled. You grabbed stuff? What stuff? He hesitated. Just some things she asked me to get. What things, Derek? I don't know, her checkbook. Some documents from the filing cabinet. Mom needed them for bills or whatever. The filing cabinet. Where my grandmother kept her savings bonds, her life insurance paperwork. The deed to the house. You took her financial documents while she was in the hospital. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He didn't answer. I heard my mother's voice in the background, muffled, asking who he was talking to. He mumbled something back, then came back on the line. Renee, just chill. We'll be back in a few days. Everything's fine. Nothing about this is fine. I hung up. That afternoon, I sat in the hospital cafeteria with a black coffee and my laptop. I logged into the joint savings account my grandmother had set up years ago, the one she added my name to in case of emergencies. I was the co-signer. My mother was not. People do, Anna. The transaction history made my stomach turn. In the last 3 weeks, over $14,000 had been withdrawn. ATM pulls in downtown Charlotte. A charge at a travel agency. Hotel deposits. Shopping at a department store. 2 charges at a luggage shop. A spa booking in Cancún. My grandmother's pension checks had been deposited automatically, and they had drained them almost the same day they hit. $14,000. My grandmother lived on $1,200 a month. They had taken almost a year of her income in 3 weeks. I sat with that number for a long time. Then I opened the account settings, scrolled to the security tab, and found the option to freeze the account and restrict all card access. I tapped it. Confirmed. Done. I closed the laptop and took a slow breath. Let's see how the beach feels without her money. It took less than an hour, 53 minutes to be exact. My phone lit up like a switchboard. 3 missed calls from my mother. 4 from Derek. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Probably the hotel concierge. Then the voicemail started. Renee, something's wrong with the card. It's not going through. The hotel is saying we owe for the room. Call me back right now. Then Derek. Yo, what did you do? My card just got declined at the restaurant. Everyone's staring at us. Fix this. Then my mother again, her voice rising. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you better undo whatever you did. We are stuck here. Do you understand that? Stuck. I listened to each one, then set the phone down. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady for the first time in days. I walked back to the ICU. My grandmother was the same, still, quiet, breathing with the help of a machine that didn't know her name. I sat beside her and took her hand. They're panicking, I said softly. And honestly, good. Under the side table, I noticed a small canvas tote bag I hadn't seen before. It had her initials embroidered on the front, LD, in faded blue thread. I pulled it into my lap and opened it. Inside were a few personal items the hospital had collected when she was admitted. Her reading glasses, a pocket-sized Bible with a cracked spine, a prescription bottle, and a sealed envelope with my name on it in her handwriting. I turned it over in my hands. The paper was slightly yellowed, like it had been written a while ago and kept somewhere safe. I opened it carefully. Renee, if you're reading this, then something happened and you came. I knew you would. You were always the one who showed up. There are things I need you to know. Your mother has been taking money from my account for over a year. I tried to stop it, but she had Derek help her get access. I went to see Mr. Alderman at the law office on Park Road back in February. He helped me change my will and my power of attorney. Everything is in your name now. The house, the accounts, the medical decisions, all of it. They don't know. I didn't tell them because they would have tried to stop it. I'm not angry, Renee. I'm just tired tired of pretending that love and obligation are the same thing. Take care of yourself first. Then take care of what's right. I love you more than I ever said, Grandma. I read it twice, then a third time. Each time, the words sank deeper. She had known. She had seen it happening, felt it closing in, and instead of confronting them, she had quietly, methodically protected what she could. Not for herself. For me. I pressed the letter to my chest and closed my eyes. For a moment, the machines, the hallway noise, the fluorescent hum, it all faded. It was just me and her in that room, the way it had been so many times before. Sitting on her porch in the summer, watching game shows after dinner, falling asleep on her couch while she rubbed my back and hummed something slow and sweet. I got your letter, Grandma, I whispered. I see everything now. The next morning, I called Mr. Alderman's office. His assistant confirmed everything. My grandmother had come in on February 14th, alone, with a folder of documents and a clear mind. She had revised her will, assigned me as her sole power of attorney for both medical and financial decisions, and removed my mother and Derek from all legal authority. She had also filed a notarized letter with the office outlining her concerns about financial exploitation. She was very specific, the assistant told me. She said she didn't want anyone contacted until you reached out yourself. I asked for a video meeting with Mr. Alderman that afternoon. He agreed. At 2 o'clock, I sat in the hospital's small family conference room with my laptop open. Mr. Alderman appeared on screen, a man in his early 60s with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He spoke slowly and carefully, the way people do when they've spent decades delivering difficult truths. Your grandmother was lucid and deliberate, he said. She wasn't acting out of anger. She was protecting her assets and her dignity. The documents are airtight. He walked me through the next steps. An emergency petition for conservatorship, a formal freeze on all estate-related accounts, and if necessary, a hearing to enforce the power of attorney and address the unauthorized withdrawals. They took over $14,000, I said. He nodded. That may constitute financial elder abuse under North Carolina law. If you want to pursue it, we can. I didn't hesitate. I want to pursue it. 2 days later, I stood outside the Mecklenburg County Courthouse in a black blazer and flat shoes, holding a folder of documents and a copy of my grandmother's letter. The air was cold, the kind of sharp, late November cold that cuts through your coat and settles in your bones. Inside, the courtroom was quiet. My mother and Derek were already seated on the other side. My mother wore a cream-colored blouse and had her hair pinned up, looking composed, polished, the version of herself she showed to strangers. Derek sat beside her in a wrinkled dress shirt, his knee bouncing. Their attorney, a heavy-set man with a red tie, shuffled papers without looking at me. The judge was a woman in her mid-50s named Judge Carolyn Rhodes. She had a sharp gaze and a low voice that filled the room without effort. Mr. Alderman presented the case methodically. My grandmother's medical condition, the timeline of her hospitalization, the complete absence of family visits, the financial records showing withdrawals during and after her admission, the revised will and power of attorney documents, and the letter she had written to me, which the judge read silently, her expression unreadable. When it was my mother's turn, she stood and began the way she always did when cornered, by performing. Your Honor, I have dedicated my life to caring for my mother. I gave up opportunities, relationships, years of my life, to be there for her. Mrs. Delcourt, the judge interrupted. The records show your mother was alone on her kitchen floor for approximately 7 hours before a neighbor intervened. You were contacted by the hospital multiple times and did not respond. You then left the state on a vacation, funded by withdrawals from her accounts. Is that accurate? My mother blinked. I was told she was stable. I needed a break. A break, the judge repeated. Derek tried next. He stood up, hands in his pockets, and said, I love my grandmother. I didn't know it was that bad. My mom said the doctors had everything under control. Mr. Alderman presented the Instagram posts. The dates matched perfectly. Pool photos posted the same day the hospital left its third unreturned voicemail. The judge reviewed the final documents and then looked at me. Miss Delcourt, based on the evidence presented, the notarized legal directives of Lorraine Delcourt, and the documented absence of care by the named parties, I am granting your petition for full conservatorship over your grandmother's medical and financial affairs. She turned to my mother and Derek. Patricia and Derek Delcourt, you are hereby barred from accessing any accounts, property, or medical decisions pertaining to Lorraine Delcourt without prior court approval. Furthermore, I am referring the matter of the unauthorized withdrawals to the district attorney's office for review. My mother's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Derek stared at the table. Their attorney began scribbling notes. I didn't smile. I didn't react. I stood, collected my things, and walked out. Outside, the wind hit my face, and I stood still for a moment, letting it settle me. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. You just destroyed this family. I looked at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back. No. I just stopped pretending we were one. 3 weeks passed. My grandmother remained in the ICU, but her condition improved slowly. The doctors reduced her oxygen support. She opened her eyes twice, briefly, not long enough to speak, but long enough for the nurse to see recognition in her gaze. I was there both times. I held her hand and told her she was safe. I hired a private care aide named Grace, a woman in her 50s from Trinidad, who had spent 20 years working in elder care. She treated my grandmother with a gentleness that made me trust her immediately. I showed her the letter, the documents, the medication schedule, everything. She's a fighter, Grace said after her first night. I can tell. I moved into my grandmother's house temporarily. Not to claim it, but to take care of it. I watered the ferns, fixed the doorbell, cleaned out the fridge, found a drawer full of handwritten recipes she had been collecting since the 80s, found another drawer with birthday cards I had sent her over the years. Every single one, kept in order, rubber-banded together like they were sacred. I sat on her kitchen floor, holding those cards, and cried for the first time since I had landed in Charlotte. Using what remained of the estate, after the unauthorized withdrawals, I started a small fund in her name, the Lorraine Delcourt Care Fund, dedicated to elderly patients in Mecklenburg County who had been hospitalized without family support. It wasn't much at first, just a few $1,000s. But within 2 weeks, donations started coming in. Nurses shared the story. A local journalist wrote a short piece. People I had never met sent messages saying they had been through the same thing. One Tuesday evening, I was sitting on the porch of my grandmother's house when the mailman dropped off a small stack of envelopes. Most were junk. One was a bill, and one had no return address, written in handwriting I recognized immediately. My mother's. I opened it standing in the doorway, the evening light falling across the page. Inside was a single sheet of paper, no greeting, no signature, just one line. I failed her, and I failed you. I stood there for a long time, reading it again and again. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a request. It was just an admission, plain and bare, without decoration or defense. I walked inside, opened my grandmother's Bible, the one from the hospital tote bag, and slipped the note between the pages of Psalms. It didn't belong in the trash, but it didn't belong on the mantle either. It just needed a place to exist quietly, next to the words of someone who understood mercy better than any of us. A week later, my grandmother opened her eyes and kept them open. She looked at me, her lips moved. No sound came out at first. Then, faintly, barely above a whisper, Renee. I leaned in close, my hand over hers. I'm here, Grandma. I've been here. She blinked slowly. A tear slid down her temple into the pillow. I know, she whispered. I always knew you'd come. That night, after Grace took over for the evening shift, I drove back to the house. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of chamomile tea, the overhead light casting a warm glow over the counter. I pulled a sticky note from the pad by the phone and wrote 3 words. Show up. Always. I stuck it to the fridge, right next to one of her old recipes. Then I sat back down and let the quiet fill the room. Not silence, not emptiness, just peace. The kind you earn by doing the hard thing when nobody else will. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. And sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one holding everything together. My grandmother taught me that love isn't loud. It's consistent. It shows up. It stays. If this story moved you, If you've ever been the one who carried everyone else and got nothing in return, you're not alone. Subscribe to DR Revenge Story for more real stories that speak the truth no one else will. And if you have a story of your own, leave it in the comments. Your voice matters here.